All right, give me a minute to wipe the tears out of my eyes here. Oh, I'm so happy to be here. It's a tremendous honor. Thank you all for your welcome. And thank you, Jim Wright and Susan Wright. As I look out, I see incredible transformations here at this college since I was here. And it does me good, it does everyone good. Congratulations to you all on your new president as well. I'm going to have to stop. Jim Yong Kim. I'd like to also offer my admiration to the other recipients of honorary degrees. It's a pleasure and an honor to be among you. And I'd like to acknowledge my relatives and my ancestors, Nindinawe Maganidok, including the first Native people who were educated on this very ground, which is Abnaki homeland, Dartmouth College. Class of 2009. I'm so delighted to be your speaker. And although I have written many long books in my career, I'm also a former Kentucky Fried Chicken waitress. So I understand brevity. This speech will be about 11 and a half minutes long, more or less, and there will be chickens in it. Yes, I'm a member of the class of 1976, the first year that women went all the way through college here, and the first year that this college recommitted itself to the Native American program. And so this honor for me is really received for all of the Native people who came here and didn't make it, and for all of the women in those first classes who persevered. But there's also one question I would like to answer, one I was recently asked. The answer to the question, yes, is the answer. We did in those days play an ancient form of Pong. So I'm a storyteller, and that's where I'm going to begin. Story one, The Courage of Chickens, 1972. Now, the morning I was to leave for Dartmouth College, from my home in Wahpeton, North Dakota, which I'd almost never left, I almost didn't go. The reason I was coming in the first place was because my mother, a strong Turtle Mountain Chippewa woman, had seen a picture of the Dartmouth ice sculpture from Winter Carnival in the National Geographic magazine. And she thought this was a wonderful place where ice sculptures were made, and Native people it was established to educate Native people. So this was a wonderful thing. And I applied because of her. I had never been on a plane. I was most afraid of negotiating that change at Boston's Logan Airport, but got through that and then boarded a smaller plane, which at the time carried mail and freight and whatever else was needed in the Upper Valley, including livestock. And on that day, they were carrying crates of baby chicks. Right in back of the cabin, there was just a little curtain between us and the chicks. And every time the plane went over a bump of air, the chicks started peeping. They went peep, beep, 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 beep. All the way here, there was this sound of the baby chicks. They were terrified, but in their terror, they did not cower. They did not fall silent. They stood up together and they made noise. And they taught me a little lesson. They taught me to feel less afraid myself. After all, they didn't know the plane was even going to land. And I could tell it probably would. The pilot looked like he slept. So when you're afraid, get your friends around you, don't panic. and picture what you fear. Most of the time, once you analyze your fear, it will be something, and unless you're in a life and death situation, it will be something like failure or humiliation. Now that's something I know about. So my story next is the uses of humiliation, or the law of the onion. So by the end of that first year and into the second, I was probably cracking and frying those very eggs the chickens laid onto the Thayer dining hall grill, because that was my job. I was a breakfast short order cook. My boss was an army cook who'd converted to vegetarianism. He was a man ahead of his time. But I was the flunky. So before I could earn my spatula, I had to do all the prep work. And one day, I chopped and peeled a 60-pound bag of onions right before class. Then I went off to Introduction to the Problems of Philosophy. And my problem that day was I smelled like an onion. And you know how it is when you smell like an onion, you don't know how bad you smell. So I walked into class, and everyone made a little circle while moving away from me. I was sure, being from North Dakota, people were all smarter than me. And now not only were they smarter, but I was the only one who smelled like an onion. The lesson was, I suppose, if you smell like an onion, hold your nose and take notes. So I didn't become a philosophy major, but I did become a writer here. And I became a writer because I understood, even if people were smarter, I had the advantage of knowing onions. And I had the advantage of knowing a little bit about embarrassment or humiliation. And most important of all, I think, was that. Because that's one thing as human beings we all have or will have in common. There's no getting away from it. Absurd humiliation, which can also become the basis of wisdom. The experience caused me to invent the law of the onion. And it goes something like this. You have to risk humiliation or failure if you want to move forward. But the law of the onion also states that humiliation fades if you don't take things personally. If other people's opinions are not personal to you, good or bad, you have the freedom to be who you are. Now, my last story is not quite as simple, and that's because I resolved that for this occasion I would finally solve a problem that bothered me the entire time I was here. And it was connected with my very final and favorite job here, which was in the research library downstairs in Baker. And it was underneath Orozco's mural. So my problem was with Orozco's skeletons. Now, this beautiful mural is a treasure of Dartmouth College, and if any of you parents out there haven't seen it, you must go over and go through the basement of Baker Library. It was begun by Orozco in 1932, and it's the most powerful and exquisite mural in North America. And the doorway to my little office in the microfilm library at the time was right under a piece called Gods of the Western World. Now, over my doorway, and this is going to sound surreal, was a phenomenal picture of a huge skeleton assisted by other skeletons in this sort of academic gown and academic hats like we're mostly wearing, violently giving birth to baby skeletons in academic hats, and most of them were in bell jars. Now again, this mural is a work of the highest genius. However, to an undergraduate, this part of the mural was all so seriously creepy. And you do know what I mean. So as I passed beneath it every day, I tried to get a handle on what it meant. We're all dry skeletons, absorbing dry knowledge, giving birth to little vacuum-packed skeletons. But that's not us sitting here today. Of course not. Look around you. Just take a moment right now to try and absorb this into your memory so you never forget how alive and vital you are at this moment. Feel the fact that the clouds have held off. Feel the energy from these great, old, deep-branched trees. Everyone is here to celebrate the fact that you have acquired knowledge. And with this knowledge, you have the component of something in Ojibwe that is called Minobemadaziwin. This is the good life. It's knowledge with fortitude, knowledge with courage, knowledge with generosity and kindness. That's Minobemadaziwin. And this concept of Minobemadaziwin resonates with that ferocious image of Orozco's skeletons. They tell us this: knowledge without compassion is dead knowledge. Knowledge without love is something to beware of. Beware of knowledge without love. I don't mean Harlequin romance love. I don't write those kind of books. I mean love as in devotion to this world. A world that needs you right now worse than it ever has. Have you ever been in a relationship where you took someone for granted, but he or she seemed resilient? A relationship in which you had the feeling that things were going to be all right in spite of how you'd acted, and then all of a sudden, boom, you got dumped. That's the relationship we're in right now with the earth. But if the earth dumps us, we all do die of broken hearts. And in fact, the numbers are in, the science is done. We are in a nosedive unless we can change as a species. We're like chicks in the crate, peeping, and we don't know if we're going to land. We don't know what's going to happen. There's no pilot. There's just this plane. So while the plane is diving, one chick in the crate turns to the other and says, "Which came first, the chicken or the egg?" And the other chick says, "Hey, that's not the question. The question is, why did the chicken cross the road?" And the third chick says, "Shut up, stop arguing, and help me steer this." No matter what we believe, no matter what our political thoughts or ethnicities or religious faiths, we have to steer this thing. Nindinawe Magani Dok, you are my relatives. We are all related through our common humanity and through our bonds with this place. We're all endeavor as one to make this world better. It is love of peace that makes you a warrior. Love of process that binds you to your work. Love of family that steadies you in all you do. Often, the only answer to questions posed to you all through your life will be a mute and fierce love, an irrational love, a love that simply answers, "I am here." So, go forward and do what you love best. But do it as if it was meant to save the world, as if you were out to save the world, because you are. And if you are criticized and not everyone agrees with you, you say to yourself, I must be doing something original. And if your efforts are rejected, say, I will persevere. And if your work fails at first, fail again, fail better, until you triumph. While I was at Dartmouth, my parents wrote to me every week letters, and I saved them all. I reread them before I came here, and I thought I would leave you with 2 lines of their wisdom. My father, a North Dakota school teacher, often closed his letters with the Latin phrase, magnum vectigol est parsimoniae, that is, thrift is a source of revenue. Those of you with banking careers ahead, take note. My mother always closed her letters with, I love you. And now in the remaining 30 or so seconds, I'd like to ask you all to rise. And in rising, turn around and look at everyone surrounding you, graduates. Turn around. This is not about me. Instead, I'd like you to recognize all the people who got you through Dartmouth. Cheer and applaud for your parents, the administrators. Cheer for the people in the town of Hanover. Cheer for everyone who meant something to you here at Dartmouth. The librarians, your grandparents who took so long to get here. All the people who cared for you and got you through, your fraternity brothers, your sorority sisters, your friends, everyone who you cared about. And for your president, your future president, your faculty, and everyone, thanks to them too. This is your day. So think of everyone as you go through this up on the stage and realize how much this moment means to everyone around you. Go forward. Do what you love best. Live every day like you're crazy in love with what you do and with this earth, because we need her. So do your best for this beautiful old world. Thank you.